hosts. I'm Diane Bortoletto.
And I'm Monique Chicato.
Let's do it.
Hello, and welcome to And Away We Go F1 podcast, a Formula One podcast that goes beyond the track limits to talk about travel, food and lifestyle surrounding the sport. I'm Diane Bortoletto, your pre-Drive to Survive fan, and today I'm back in the southwest of Western Australia in Margaret River.
And I'm Monique Chicato, your post-Drive to Survive fan. And after 5 long and sunny-filled weeks gallivanting around Australia, I'm finally back home in the southwest of Norway in Stavanger.
Oh, welcome home, Mon. It was so good to see you in Australia.
I know. I can't believe that since we started the podcast, we actually hadn't seen each other in person until last week.
Exactly. And you had 5 weeks in Australia and I saw you in Sydney for like 3 days when we were both at a mega busy, fully hectic, but totally awesome conference.
I know. I mean, at least we did get to see each other there because IMM, for anyone who doesn't know, who's not in the travel industry, it's an event run by a company called TravMedia. It's a big travel networking event where you meet with different destinations. So it's a super, super busy week. And I can't believe we even managed to find the time in between all of those meetings to catch up with each other and have an impromptu photo shoot. But hey, we did it. We managed. And it was so good to see you.
Oh, it was so good to see you too. And I've got to give a shout out to Caro Ryan, who saw us struggling trying to do selfies with my little, I didn't even have my mini tripod with me, did I? I was trying to lean my camera up against something. And she's like, girls, do you want me to take some photos of you? We're like, yes, please. So shout out to Caro. Good on you. Thank you. But how good was IMM? This is only my 3rd time there, but if you're a travel writer, you need to be on TravMedia and then you need to set your sights on going to IMM. There's just nothing like it in Australia. And with my PR hat on, I don't know any other industry that comes together like that with PRs and journalists from one sector like that. It was just so valuable and so fun, and yeah, I loved it. How was your IMM?
Oh my gosh. This is, I think, my 7th year. As always, it was just absolutely fantastic. The networking that you get to do. So obviously, as our podcast is about Formula One, travel and food, and funnily enough, even though this is a travel event, we could do all 3 there and talk about all 3 because there are a lot of destinations that the Formula One goes to every year that were represented there. I think we both sat down actually, didn't we, with Claire from Monaco?
Yes, Visit Monaco. Yeah, Claire was great. She showed me the Prince of Monaco's private garage with his car collection. I don't know if she showed you those, but I'm like, Claire, we need to do a podcast episode in that garage. Let's make it happen.
It was actually funny when I sat down with Claire at Monaco because I was telling her we obviously have the podcast and that we had guests on, and that 99.95% of the time when we asked the question about which race they would go to if they could choose any, it was Monaco. And she just laughed, and she's getting some very, very good coverage about Monaco in all of our podcasts because that's where everyone wants to go.
And with good reason, because Monaco is awesome.
Oh, absolutely. So, but yeah, it was a fun few days, wasn't it, Di? Even though we have a Formula One podcast, we've got to combine all our loves.
Exactly. And Formula One has just launched, Mon, which is why we're doing this episode today. The F1 75 launch was just a few days ago. First time in history, the Formula One's done a mega big glitzy Hollywood launch.
Yes, and mega big Hollywood glitzy, I think, is the right term for it. Anyway, can you sense my hesitation?
Yeah, let's unpack this a bit. So, look, straight up, what did you think, Mon?
Straight up, wasn't a fan, if I'm completely honest. And yeah, I think I'm a little bit cynical though. So yeah, we'll get into that. But your first opinions, 2 words, 3 words. What did you think?
I liked the show, but I wanted to hear from the drivers. They're the stars of the show.
Oh my God, yes.
I mean, the Red Bull launch, Christian Horner spoke, got booed, which was a surprise.
Were they booing him, or were they booing Red Bull, or were they booing Max? Because I couldn't tell.
Well, I don't know. It's hard to tell. Like, I thought though when his name got announced, there was a booing. But he spoke at the launch, but Max Verstappen and Liam Lawson, they didn't even speak. They didn't even get interviewed. And both of them look like they were attending a funeral. or that they'd both had their car stolen. Liam actually looked pretty angry. They clearly were not happy, and I don't know if they were overwhelmed because it was such a massive show, right? And they're there and there's bright lights everywhere and hundreds of people in the sold-out O2 Arena, but he really didn't look happy.
I was just going to say, when you said that they looked like they were attending a funeral, when it first started and they hadn't started showing the cars yet, and they went from the lowest in the Constructors' Championship all the way up to the winner, McLaren. But before that started, the host, Jack Whitehall, a English comedian, actually very funny, although I do feel like at the very start, a lot of his jokes fell flat. He got much better towards the end. I liked him. I liked him too, but there was a moment at the start where he said a few jokes and he was joking with Ariana.
Oh my God, that was awful. That was awful. She just shut him down. He made a joke about, what
the boot
are your
space?
thoughts, of a boot space in a Formula One car? And of course, if there's no boot, and she just went, move on. Like she just shut him down. And I thought that was from her part. I mean, she could have played along a little bit. She could have made it a joke. She was just not having any of it and just shut. And I felt a bit sorry for him in that regard. I mean, hosting a gig like that it's not easy to get the balance right of being entertaining and informative and keeping the things flowing and dropping a few jokes. All in all, besides that moment, which was only made worse because of her reaction, I think he did a really good job. I loved how Jack said, oh, hang on a minute, I got distracted. I just got lost in Charles Leclerc's eyes.
Because he'd just been talking about Charles being the hottest guy on the grid. And that was quite funny. And there was another moment where he joked with Toto about having to see Hamilton up there in the Ferrari Reds. He was like, have you changed your eyeballs to wets yet? Like changing his eyeballs to wet tires because he was going to cry. So, there were some good moments, but I think at the start, initially, it took him a bit to warm it up. And they were going around the crowd and pointing out who was there. And when he got to the table where Max was sitting, he did not look like he wanted to be there. He did not like that spotlight. And there was quite a few moments where you could see the drivers were just really uncomfortable, which is weird because they're used to the spotlight, right? They're used to being stars now, but I think this was a whole foreign situation for them, and they're not used to this Hollywood production of the cars being unveiled. Which, on that, the reason that I didn't like the whole production was very much the same as yours, Di, is that we didn't hear the drivers speak. I don't know what's different with the cars. They didn't say anything about it. And I can't tell the difference when there's just minor changes to your livery between the new car and the old car. So it kind of fell flat for me. It was more like a 3-minute audio-visual display of bright lights and some DJ that I don't know and don't really care for his music. And then all of a sudden you've got this car in the middle of the stage and you're like, oh.
Yeah. I mean, Jack Whitehall did make a joke at the very start that, your sport is minted when you're doing a massive Hollywood launch like this and the cars look exactly the same. Unless you're a technical Formula One whiz, they do look the same. Maybe there's a different sponsor sticker somewhere, but, they didn't really talk about the differences at all. Like even the differences in the livery, in the sponsors, there was nothing really about car. And I could have made it sort of fun by starting a car up as well, because that just would have
right.
And they didn't do that, and it was very produced. So like you said, there was a 3-minute, 5-minute, whatever it was, video that was on big screens, and the O2 Arena, the setup was it was super impressive, but the whole thing was really produced to a T. And some of the videos I thought were a bit average. But the opening, when it started and all the lights and all the drummers that came out, I was getting Hunger Game vibes. I was just waiting for Katniss to come out on a flaming chariot. I don't know if you've seen the Hunger Games.
No, which is why my face is like, okay.
Not seen the Hunger Games. Oh, go and live, Mon. It's a really good film, the whole series. But yeah, it was giving Hunger Game vibes for sure at the start.
Yeah, it felt like it was going to be really exciting. I thought the whole intro was very, very exciting, but then some of the preamble before certain cars were unveiled, I did not like the Red Bull unveiling at all. That pre-video, I think I went and made myself a cup of tea because I was like, ugh, they were following different people, saw the Red Bull truck.
That was going through London.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they must have been filmed
Yeah.
at like 3 a.m. because there was hardly any traffic on those streets. But yeah, they had the Red Bull truck going past Big Ben and the Houses of Parliament and all those iconic kind of London landmarks.
Picking up different fans along the way. And then it finally kind of got to the O2 Stadium, the actual unveiling of the car. And they just had all these people that were in the video dancing behind the car and Max and Liam walking out beside it waving. And I don't know, to me, I was just like, this makes no sense. Like, I don't need that.
Yeah, I felt like with all those people dancing behind the car, because they were all in sort of streetwear, and I was like, this is very Red Bull. That's the brand. That's who they're targeting.
Absolutely.
I didn't love it, but I thought it's very Red Bull. But I really did like the Visa Cash App Racing Bulls.
Me too.
It was really fun. Oh, gosh, I forgot the name of the guy that did the video. Do you know?
No, I can't remember, but he copped a lot of flack online because he was telling Yuki that he needs to run faster because his legs are short. And he said something twice about him being really short. And yeah, he copped a lot of flack online for that because everyone knows Yuki's short. That's fine. It didn't need to be made fun of on stage. And that's what people were angry about.
Yeah, but the whole clip there was of the going around doing a vox pops with the public.
That's right. Yes.
Yeah, what's the name of the team? And they're like, Toro Rosso, RB, Alpha Tauri, which is pretty funny because the name has changed that many times. But the official name, Visa Cash App Racing Bulls. So that I thought that was really good because they did it in a fun way. And now people that watch the launch are going to remember the team name.
Yeah. I thought that was really good too because they've picked up on something that obviously is a bit of a thorn in their side, is that nobody can get their team name right. And it was done in a very Red Bull way still. Funny, irreverent. They had someone that people are supposed to recognize, but we don't.
I think it was a British personality that we're not familiar with over here.
I really enjoyed that one. I actually also really liked the Haas launch. They had a really good video about where they'd come from and being this American team coming into Formula One. And then I just really liked the look of the car this year too. I thought it was really sexy. It was a lot more, it just looked a lot sleeker than it did last year, I think. Oh, and they used Lenny Kravitz.
Was it Are You Going to Go My Way? Was it that one?
Yes, I think it was. They used Lenny Kravitz's Are You Going to Go My Way, which I thought worked really well for a car launch, which I can't say too much about. Was it Take That closed the show?
Oh, wow. Yeah, I mean, this is Formula One, the biggest, the richest, the most glamorous sport on the planet. They could have got anyone. In fact, if they'd gotten Robbie Williams, it would have been bigger and better than Take That. You know, Robbie, of course, was a Take That member back in the day. Yeah, that's kind of when I checked out and I went and made a cup of tea then and came back and just watched the closing. But we've got to talk about the Ferrari one because that was, in my mind, the best. It was brilliant. Their video showed all the different evolutions of the Ferrari over the years and how it's evolved, the different eras of the car. And their tagline is "We belong to racing," which is exactly how Ferrari started. It was as a race car. I thought that was the coolest. And of course, Sir Lewis Hamilton is driving for Ferrari this year and he's like a British megastar. So that just got a massive cheer from the crowd and it was really well done.
Seeing him in red, oof, I got chills. Like he looks good in red.
He does look good in red. And now that I've seen him in red a few times on socials and whatnot, you know, his first day at Maranello and that, like, I can't imagine him with Mercedes anymore. It's so weird. It's just, I feel like he's just ingrained in Ferrari already.
Speaking of seeing people in red, Jack Whitehall, the host, did a full outfit change right before.
Yes.
Well, it was actually quite funny. He made it like a pit stop. So he had people pulling his suit off him and he had a red suit underneath and he was dressed head to toe in red, which is the first time and the only time in the whole thing that he changed and wore any colours of any team. So to me, that was really quite a moment because I was like, oh, hang on, he hasn't done this for any other team. He's doing it for Ferrari and Ferrari Red. So, yeah, that was quite cool too. Speaking of seeing the evolution of the cars, I really enjoyed McLaren's.
Yeah, they did a good job.
They had the actual cars on I'm going to call it a runway because it was kind of like a runway.
It was, yeah, a really wide, long stage that jutted out into the crowd.
Yeah, and most of the cars kind of did a really slow procession up that runway on like a platform. So they weren't driving. It was like a motorized platform that came up.
Yeah.
Whereas McLaren had kind of the spotlight shone down on each of the cars up the stage to show the evolution and then to the new car. So that was really cool because you did see the differences. It wasn't every car, obviously. I think there was like a 5 or 10 years difference. I really enjoyed that because, as we were saying, a lot of the cars, unless you have them side by side, you wouldn't really notice that they've changed.
And I thought McLaren, they really played on, you know, their historic involvement in Formula One. Like besides Ferrari, they're the only team that have been competing in Formula One since the sport's inception 75 years ago.
As McLaren.
As McLaren, exactly right. And I guess, you know, newer fans to Formula One might not know that. Like Ferrari is iconic and synonymous with Formula One. And I really like that McLaren were playing to that as well, like building up.
Yeah,
I suppose just a little bit of education, street cred. We've been here, you know, like for 75 years and, you know, they're current world champions. So they got the longest time being interviewed with Zach Brown and Andrea Stella.
I did notice that actually. I felt really sorry for the teams that obviously came lower down in the championship, in the Constructors' Championship. They basically just got to have their car come out and stand on stage. I think the procession of the car took longer than the amount of time that they had to speak. They really did not get any time. And it was literally like they got asked, how's the car this year? Are you excited? And each person got to say maybe 2 sentences, and that was
exactly, if that. Aston Martin did a great job. They did a whole James Bond theme, like video production for, you know, because obviously James Bond drives an Aston Martin. So I thought they did a really good job with that.
Yeah, I really liked the look of the Aston Martin car this year as well. Forgive me if I'm wrong, because again, very hard to tell when the cars aren't side by side. But I feel like it's looking a lot greener and like a lot more, a lot greener this year. And whereas Mercedes has gone the other way and their car isn't as green, it's getting more black. Am I correct?
Yeah. So look, Formula One or Liberty or the production team, if you happen to be listening to this podcast, this is what I recommend that you do. Is more airtime with the drivers. That's what the fans want to hear from. You know, we want to hear from the drivers. I would love in the broadcast to have seen the red carpet, like seeing all the drivers walk in and,
absolutely,
you know, and have them wearing whatever they want to be wearing, whether obviously Lewis Hamilton's going to be in an impressive outfit because he's right into fashion.
And Sonoda.
Exactly. But have them walk in on the red carpet. And it would be so fun for Martin Brundle to do like a pit lane walk, like grid walk, trying to interview people on the red carpet. Like they had a red carpet like the grid before a race with just all the celebrities and all the personalities there. I mean, I would have loved to have seen that as a fan.
100%. Because how many celebrities were there? I mean, we saw the sweary chef. Gordon Ramsay.
Gordon Ramsay, the sweary chef. Yeah, who did actually who got asked by Jack Whitehall, you know, what do you think of the no swearing rule? And his answer was brilliant. It was like, let them be real, and to massive cheers in the crowd.
They're in a high pressure situation. Like, how can you censor yourself in that?
Oh God, you just can't. I think. I don't know, the FIA, I think that whole no swearing thing, like if a broadcaster can't bleep it out, then that's the broadcaster's problem, don't put it on the drivers. Like I think in a press conference situation, fair enough. But in the car, come on.
Or if you're shoving a microphone in the face as they're coming off the track because they've just had an accident where someone's run into the butt of them, you know, maybe they're going to swear there. Yes, like they're angry. They've just come off and they're being pressured. That's a different situation. That's sport.
Yeah.
It happens in every sport. If, you hear it in rugby or football, if the ref has gotten a little bit too close to two players who are having a bit of a biffo, you hear the swearing. It happens.
Yeah. You see footballers all the time, say their mouth moving to say exactly the swear words that you're imagining them saying. And so, yeah, I think Gordon Ramsay answered that question really well by let them be real. If the shit's going to hit the fan, he said. And then Jack Whitehall was like, Gordon, you're swearing. It was funny.
I think it might have been slightly produced because I knew that he would swear or he'd been told to swear because the microphone did cut out when he said shit. So that makes me feel like there might have been a little bit of production there, but it doesn't matter because I thought it was fantastic. And everyone knows that Gordon Ramsay is the sweary chef. So
exactly.
It worked really well.
It did work well and it didn't feel stilted or put on. And I really liked that Martin Brundle was the one to interview McLaren at the end. So they had the F1 TV presenters hosting F1 75, which we don't get in Australia. So I'm not really familiar with Laura Winter and Ariana Bravo and Lawrence Barretto.
Really? Okay, so look at me here, Little Miss Europe right now. I'm like, oh, you don't know these people? Because that's just what we get over here, I guess.
I mean, Lawrence occasionally is on Sky Sports, which is the feed that we get in Australia on KO or Fox Sports. And obviously his name is all over all the F1 articles, like he's one of their major writers for the website. But no, Laura Winter and Ariana Bravo, no, we're not really that familiar with them. I think Ariana does the warm-ups with the drivers at the F1 races on the fan stage. I've seen her do that in Australia a few times and I have thought to myself, who's she? She's got the best job in the world.
Right? And to go back to what you were saying about the fans wanted to hear from the drivers at the F1 75 Live, those fan stages at the Formula One races go off. When every time especially in Australia, the crowd is huge,
wild, massive
at those stages. Yeah, and people want to hear from the drivers. So I'm just bewildered as to why they made such a big deal of the audio-visual side of things, and at the launch, and not speaking to the drivers. And that's what people watch Drive to Survive for. They don't watch Drive to Survive for the production value. They watch it to hear from the people involved in the sport. It felt very Hollywood, and I think this is also, sorry, I know I'm jumping around a bit here, but I think this is one of the main reasons that I didn't like it. I don't like Hollywood films because they feel like they need to be action all the time. Why does there need to be an action scene in it? It's because they have the budget and because that's what they think that everyone wants to watch. And I think that same mentality was what was rolled into this launch. They need the drama. To a degree, yes, we need the drama. But
I thought it was really not so much drama. It was more they were building the anticipation and with all those impressive lights, what they could have done. If they didn't want to leave it to chance and interview the drivers live there, they could have done clips with the drivers and shown that on the big screen as they were walking out and waving as well. We want more from the drivers at the next F1 launch. Thanks very much.
And to, counter what you said there about if you didn't want to leave it to chance to interview the drivers on stage, they interview the drivers all the time and leave it to chance. So they're not going to screw it up. These guys have the best media training. They have a massive team of PRs behind them. Shout out to all the lovely PRs that we've interviewed on this Formula One podcast. They're being told what to say. They're being trained. They know what to do. So give them the chance to speak. Give the fans what they want.
Give the fans what they want. In some ways, I'm a bit perplexed as to why there hasn't been a launch in the past. I think there was one some years ago. They had a few of the British teams driving through London as a season launch, but I feel like they should just do a season launch every year.
Yes.
I think they probably will after this, and it will just be another revenue stream and another reason to talk about Formula One a month before the racing actually starts. So I feel like this is the first of many F1 launches.
I hope so. I hope so.
Show us the red carpet, give us more from the drivers, and maybe explain a little bit about the difference of the cars and lose some of the music acts. Having the music and the sound was great, but watching some DJ we'd never heard of performing on the stage, I was scrolling then. I was like, yeah, who's this chump? I'm not interested in this. Unless you've got Robbie Williams or Taylor Swift or Kylie Minogue, don't bother. Like, just, like, save your budget and put it somewhere else. I'm sorry, take that. I mean, Elton John could do it. That'd be good. Yeah.
Do you know who's playing at the Singapore Grand Prix? I saw last night. Elton John is playing after. Is that like, I just got goosebumps then. I want to.
Oh my God, I want to go to the Singapore. I saw Elton John, when I lived in London. He was touring with Billy Joel. That was the tour that they did together. It was called the Piano Man Tour. And he was at Wembley Arena and Billy Joel was sick. So Elton John did 3.5 hours on his own at Wembley in London. And it was up there with Taylor Swift and Bon Jovi and Bruce Springsteen. It's probably my favourite concert. It was just legendary. I absolutely loved it. I would love to see him at the Singapore Grand Prix. Oh,
right. Massive, massive coup to the Singapore Grand Prix for getting it because he did his final tour, but now he's playing there. Imagine how much they could have charged per ticket if they had someone like Elton John playing at the F1 75 live. It would have been, they could have made so much money off that. And I know that they chose their musical acts this year for a very specific purpose, and that was because they wanted to engage the new, younger generation of Formula One fans. But then why take that?
I was about to say, that makes no sense. That makes no sense.
Machine Gun Kelly opened, and I have no idea who Machine Gun Kelly is. I don't listen to their music. It's not my thing, but it was chosen for the specific purpose of engaging and entertaining that audience. I get that. Obviously, capturing these new markets is really, really important, but and every single industry does it, but then every other generation gets forgotten about in the marketing and PR and all that sort of stuff. But you could have had a multi-generational artist play like Elton John.
Exactly. Or like Taylor Swift. Like, she's, the biggest artist of the day at the moment. So, Mon, would you recommend that Formula One fans go back and watch the catch-up version or the replay of F1, of the launch, F1 75?
Sorry, I actually...
No!
Yeah, I actually wouldn't recommend it. I feel like you'd just be better off finding a social media post or a news article where there's photos of the cars next to each other and then going and watching the Formula One YouTube page where they have all those wonderful, wonderful videos. I forgot what they call them, where they do like challenges with the drivers because you actually get to hear drivers talk. Like, I just don't think that if you're looking for good entertainment, good Formula One entertainment, that was not it. So unfortunately, I'm going to have to say no, but I'm sensing you might have a different opinion.
Yeah, I'm going to say yes. I'm going to say if you're an F1 fan, watch the launch, but I would say have it on while you're cooking dinner or have it on while you're cleaning or doing something else. So, because it's 2 hours long, it's quite an investment of time. And while I watched it intently because I wanted to talk about it with you, Mon, and other Formula One fans, put it this way, you're not going to miss out anything if you don't watch it. It's not like you've missed the first race. I guess just to see the direction that Formula One is going in, that launch speaks volumes. Formula One own the Las Vegas race. It's the only race on the 24-race calendar that F1 actually owns and runs, and that race is exactly the same. It's all show and glitz and glamour and Hollywood and fully produced and quite over the top, but I think the American audiences will probably love it, and it's a huge and growing market for them.
100%. And I don't mind all that production if you get the balance right. And for me, the balance wasn't right. But again, this is the first launch they've done of its kind. So things can only go up, hopefully. Things can also go down.
Yeah. And the other thing that if anyone from Liberty or Formula One or the production team is listening, God, wouldn't that be amazing? I think, they could have people like celebs or personalities modelling the Formula One merch of all the teams. I think that would be really fun. And then, they could also have celebs sitting like a catwalk, like a fashion show alongside the runway. And you could choose celebrities that are known to love Formula One. And there's a bunch of them. They're all on the grid. Well, not all of them love Formula One.
I think that's a great idea. You mentioned that the Formula One launch is a great way to start talking about Formula One before the first race actually happens.
Yeah.
We're less than a month out of our first race now.
I know. I'm so excited. I'm going to be in Melbourne. Oh, truth be told, I haven't secured tickets for the race yet. I missed out when they went on sale. I know. I've applied for media accreditation. I've got an editor that said that they'll take stories about Formula One, but I haven't heard yet. And I've checked in with another journalist that I know, and he hasn't got his media accreditation either. So either I get media accreditation or one of the lovely sponsors of Formula One and races that I've been speaking to come through with some tickets. Either way, if anyone out there's got tickets to the Grand Prix Melbourne, hit me up.
If anyone feels like paying for flights from Stavanger to Melbourne, also, if you're listening, because we will be talking about this race very closely.
Yeah. So, look, worst case scenario, I don't get to the race, but I get to be in Melbourne to soak up the atmosphere and watch the race on TV, which is not such a horrible thing. Oh, well, thanks so much, Mon. It's been really fun to recap IMM in Sydney. Really fun to see you in Sydney. I'm going to give a shout out to Michael Zanowich from YHA Australia, who organised impromptu rooftop drinks in Sydney at IMM after one of the functions. And I've got to say, if anyone's looking for accommodation in Sydney, the YHA might be a youth hostel, but they've got private rooms that are ensuited, and the rooftop bar has views over the Opera House. It's got to be one of the best views in Sydney. And a youth hostel. I mean, who knew?
And I'll go even further. Those rooms, they are... You say the word hostel? No, it's not a hostel. They're like little hotel rooms. So
yeah,
great spot. It was a great event. Really appreciated it. So thanks, Michael.
Yeah, thanks, Michael. Thank you, YHA Australia. And thank you for listening.
If you like our podcast, please leave us a review or a rating on your favourite podcast listening app. Every little bit helps. You can continue the conversation with us by emailing us at andawaywegof1podcast@gmail.com, or you can find us on any of the social media apps. We're on all of them. We're on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, TikTok, and YouTube. So go ahead and interact with us there too.
Thank you, Mon, and thank you for having us in your ears. Until next week, and until lights out.
It's lights out and away we go.
And Away We Go podcast is produced by Diane Bortoletto and Monique Ciccato.
Let's do it.